Hey everyone. Today I want to talk a little bit about that series, Valkyria Chronicles. I'm just going to call it VC from now on. It's a long-running franchise, but it only became popular recently, even though it's been so long-running, and most of the popularity comes from when the original game was ported onto Steam, because originally it was a PS3 exclusive. It was actually I feel like it was an early PS3 exclusive, the very first game. And what happened was it wasn't really financially successful. A lot of people would actually say, "Oh, if you buy a PS3, this is a game you should get, the original VC game." But a lot of people didn't really buy it. It wasn't really like bought new, I guess. I guess a lot of people bought it used, and well, the series just wasn't doing well financially. It was originally a very high. I want to say it was a decently to high budgeted game originally, and then what happened was for the sequels of the games, they ended up making them on handheld consoles, and because it's such an old series, they ended up putting the other games onto the portable consoles like the PSP. And then when they put the second and third VC games onto the PSP, it ended up being much lower budget, and also the technical limitations of the PSP. It made the games really shitty compared to the first game. Some people would even say that, and I would agree with this, is that I played through them all, and the second and third games, the zones where you do the battle and stuff, the zones are actually smaller than the tutorial section of the first game, which is so sad. The first game had so many unique levels. Each level was unique. The second and third games, both within their own games, like the second game reuses its own levels later in the game, and same with the third game, it uses the same levels over again. But it's not just that, the third game even uses all the levels from the second game, which is really shitty. So the thing is, I'm thinking, why was this series so bad? And when you think about this, it was an SRPG series. It's kind of like what happened to Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem used to be on the mainline consoles until Awakening, and then they switched to putting the games on the handheld consoles. But the good thing was that handheld consoles were more advanced, like after 2012 when Awakening came out. So those games were much better from a technical aspect. The 3DS could handle a lot more technically. It could even have like 3D models. The original game had, I think the characters in the Fire Emblem Awakening, they didn't have proper feet. They had stumps, but then they added feet later because they realized that they could after. It was pretty funny. But with VC, they ended up making a game like a year or two ago, a reboot kind of to the series called Revolution, VC Revolution, and that game was it wasn't like a same genre kind of game. It was a Muso game, which is like a kind of genre. It's like Dynasty Warriors, where you have a character and you're doing an action combos, melee attacks usually against a big horde of weak enemies. So it's like you're a big character taking down a lot of weak little enemies. It's a kind of genre it is, and a lot of people didn't like the changes that the series went through. I think that the sales dropped dramatically because of their first game to the second game, because it was on a handheld console. It wasn't even on the Vita. The Vita could have handled a lot more. The Vita was actually pretty powerful, but it was on the PSP instead because that's how old it was. So kind of think of it doing what Fire Emblem did, but like almost a decade earlier. And yeah, a lot of people hated it, and the third game was never even dubbed into English. So you have to play the third game, you actually have to apply a patch to the game. And the patch it's like a fan-made patch, so it's not an official release, which will make it kind of have subtitles. All of the voices and stuff will still be in Japanese. But yeah, and you can see from the third game, since they didn't even bother porting it to the English language, you can see that probably the series wasn't doing so well. Revolution came out, and that was also abysmal. People just didn't like the change to the series. It was originally an SRPG kind of series where you control characters on a map, and it's almost like a World War II anime game. I know people hate when I say that, but it's true, it is. It mimics like World War II. But they use, this type of anime character, that kind of anime character, But if you like this kind of industrial, technology, like tanks and weapons, rifles, rockets even, you probably would like this game because it has a really stylish aesthetic. And in fact, even it has this kind of how should I say it, a kind of sketchy look to the characters. That's part of the art style of the game, and you can see that the latest, one of the more recent Fire Emblem games, which one, Fire Emblem Fates, it's almost like they copied the sketchiness art style from VC. But anyways, the Sega released an announcement saying that they were going to make a new VC game, VC4, and where you'd be playing as not the same armies you would control in the previous games. Instead, you would be controlling a different army, not the enemy army either. You'd be controlling the Federation, which is really interesting. But I'm thinking, hey, did Sega realize that they could actually get a lot of sales from making a new kind of game? I noticed that a lot of developers are doing this nowadays. It's really weird. It's like, oh, we're gonna make a new Devil May Cry, and this time we're gonna make a DMC5 after such a shitty reboot. It's like, oh, now we're gonna make VC4 after having a shitty reboot. Maybe these developers and even publishers, they realize that making shitty reboots isn't the answer. Maybe they have to cater to the older fans, and maybe they realize that. Now, I don't know how this is gonna go though. Maybe they'll make another half-assed game. So many recent titles that are sequels, they haven't been doing really well, especially like anime and stuff, SRPGs. SRPG genre is pretty much extinct. It's really sad. So yeah, I'm gonna see how that game's about. I actually played through the second VC and the third VC game, and honestly, I was pretty disappointed going through them because it kind of shows what the series had so much potential, like, and it went from like being a mainline game to a portable game. Another example of this is kind of like SMT, Shin Megami Tensei, the mainline series games. Like, it used to be a mainline title, like SMT3 is called Nocturne. It was on the PlayStation 2. It had so many amazing 3D graphics, like you could see all of the demons. It's almost like, if you play Persona, it's kind of like that. You control these fiends, these demons, angels, whatnot, and they all had 3D models. It was actually very detailed. It's almost like having a 3D mainline Pokemon game. But SMT, what happened to it was that with SMT4, they ended up moving it to portable systems. Now, this wasn't so bad because they did it onto the Nintendo 3DS, but it still had a lot of technical limitations. Everything was done in 2D. Some people didn't like the particular 2D artist who worked on SMT4, and they actually had to get like another artist, and then they ended up fixing the art style in the sequel. Well, it's not really a sequel to the game, but whatever you want to call it, an SMT4 Apocalypse, which I guess takes place after a certain plot event in the actual fourth game. Like, I know it sounds so weird to explain, but SMT4 Apocalypse, if you don't know, it's it kind of takes place concurrently with SMT4, but no, it's not like at the beginning. It takes place like from a certain event onwards. It's like it's almost like if there was another choice in the fourth game, and then you, like a spin-off almost in a way. So you have, it's like a multiverse of different story paths the game can take, and that's just one of them. It's almost like an expansion, but I wouldn't call it an expansion either, because it's like a different reality, really, a different sequence of events. But yeah, that had a lot of drawbacks as well. People didn't like, the original game had so many nuisances. It had 3D environments you can explore, and then what they did was they made the game almost like entirely 2D instead, almost like an actual visual novel with some battle elements. People didn't like it. Now, just like VC, just like everyone else, now the publishers, developers, they're saying, oh, SMT5 is going to be on the Nintendo Switch. So, it's weird that these developers, they're all going in the opposite direction. I want to see what that's all about. I'm hoping that in 2018, VC4, SMT5, these games, these really niche anime JRPG games, I'm hoping they would become more popular, honestly. But I guess I'm hoping that they get more sales to sustain it. And I hope they're not just quick cash grabs that the developers want to do. Because I honestly do feel like that these people, the publishers, developers, I feel like they are really just trying to do a quick cash grab. Like a lot of the games nowadays, it's just not what it used to be. Like SMT Nocturne, it had so many bonus dungeons you can complete, and nowadays you wouldn't see that. Nowadays, you know what they're going to do, and they did it with SMT4, is that they're going to make a quick little game and then they're gonna put a lot of extra costumes, extra bonus levels, this, that. Like maybe they'll even put in stuff where you can't even buy equipment properly. Maybe you'll have to use slot machines or card games to actually level up your characters. That would be shitty, but it wouldn't surprise me, because Sega is kind of behaving like a shitty publisher nowadays. So Sega isn't like how it used to be in the old days. Now they just want their money as well. So I'll just have to see when that happens, and then I'll have to review the games when they come out as they come along. I probably would actually. I am still happy with the SMT franchise. They definitely made a lot of improvements after Apocalypse onwards. So I probably would actually buy a Nintendo Switch just for SMT5. I heard that people don't really like the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that much. Like, I was looking at videos of it, and the gameplay looks nice, and it definitely has a big open world and a lot of levels and such you can explore, but you know, it's the graphics doesn't even look that good, and yeah, it almost looks kind of like a joke of a JRPG game instead. It doesn't really look that good at all. It's like a shadow of what it used to be. And it's like a fan servicey kind of game, some people are saying, but I'll probably check that out. But yeah, I definitely buy a Nintendo Switch for SMT5. I wouldn't really buy a Switch for the other games that much, though. I don't really like the Mario games that much. It's just not my thing. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'm hoping that 2018 will be as good as 2017 was. 2017 had a really, it's weird because it was flipped. 2017 had a really powerful early year, which you don't usually see in the video games industry. Like, you had so many things like Horizon Zero Dawn, Nier Automata, there was a Persona 5, and they all came out before, like, the first quarter of the year. But then, like, now in the holiday season, there actually wasn't that much. Like, now there's pretty much nothing. Most of the games actually came out in November, and the publishers are hoping that people are going to buy these games more in the holiday in December, but there hasn't really been many AAA games being released in December itself. But I'm hoping that, yeah, 2018 will be a powerful year as well. Let's see how they do. If you enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to our channel. Also, please consider giving this video a like.